This week, we're making a banh mi with crispy pork belly. I'm also going to be making my own bread, and the recipe I'm using for that is from Brian Lagerstrom. I have tweaked his recipe a little bit. I'm going to be using all-purpose flour and fresh yeast. Also, whenever I make bread and I use an American recipe, the mixture always seems to be too wet. I'm not sure exactly why that is. My thought is the milling of the flour might be different or something. But if you know, leave a comment down below. I'll be very interested to know why this is. Okay, to start with, we're going to get the pork in the oven. But before that, you want to start this the night before. So last night, I just took it out of all the packaging and I let it set in the pan on top of a rack, uncovered, just to let the skin get nice and dried out, which it is now. And then I just went ahead and deboned all of the meat and I cut these squares in it. So what I'm going to do is just get a little bit of oil. I'm using just a normal neutral oil and pour a little bit over it. And that's just so when we put some salt on, it sticks straight away. So we'll go ahead and get that done on the meat side. At this stage, you could also add some other flavorings, some Szechuan pepper and all that sort of good stuff, but I'm going just salt on the pork today, and then we'll get all the other good Asian flavors a little bit later on. So now you just want to give it a good salting, get it into cracks and all that sort of stuff. And the main reason why I scored it like that is so it'll cook a little bit faster in the oven. And also I've cut it into 3 pieces so it'll cook a little bit quicker as well. Alright, once you've got the meat side done, you just want to flip it over and do exactly the same to the skin side. Just a little bit of oil, not too much, just a little bit, and we'll put a little bit of salt on there too. Okay, also I forgot to score the skin, and what that'll do, it'll stop it from curling up once it starts cooking. Once you've got them all scored up, you just want to put them back into the tray on top of a rack. I'm going to pour just a little bit of water in, just enough to get us so the bottom of it's just covered, and then we're going to stick this in a 150 degree preheated oven. As you can see, I've got my pork out of the oven and it's temping right around 90 to 93 degrees, which is just perfect. So now I'm going to get the skin nice and crispy because all the fat underneath has rendered. Just having a look, these two are nice and flat, but this one has a bit of a dip right there. So under this one, I've just balled up a little bit of alfoil and I'm going to put that right under it so it sits nice and flat. So these are all sitting nice and flat. Now I've turned my oven up to full whack and got the top element, and I'm going to put these right up near it so all this starts to nicely puff up and get nice and crackly. So I'm going to do that and then we'll come back. As you can see, I've got nice puff crackle all over the skin. Now don't be afraid to move these around and take them out once they're cracked. Like this one I actually left in long because I was trying to crackle this side up, but it got a little bit black on this side, but that's just fine. These are going to taste absolutely amazing. So now we just set these aside to rest while we crack on with the other things. Next thing you want to go on is getting your bread ready. Okay, I've already gone ahead and I've already added my flour, salt and sugar. So I'm just going to close that up, give it a little mix just to combine all those dry ingredients. Alright, once you've mixed that up, you just want to go ahead and break in your yeast. Now all the ingredients and amounts will be on the website, traditionalbutnot.com. So you just want to go ahead and break your yeast up a little bit, and then we'll add the water. So we'll close that up and start mixing. As you can see, it's kind of come together there in a wet sticky mess. So at this stage I've just stopped it and we're just going to go ahead and give it a scrape down. Okay, now we'll close it back up. And now we'll turn it on about a medium speed and we're going to knead for about 5 to 6 minutes. Alright, once you got your dough mixed up there and it's come together, looking a little something like that, we'll get it turned out onto a work surface. Alright, once you got it turned out, as you can see, the gluten development and the strength isn't too great just yet. But as we let this rest and rise, and we will give it a little strength fold after about an hour. So at the moment we just want to get it into a nice tight little ball. Then we're just going to add a little bit of oil to the mixing bowl. Get it all nicely in there and coated. And we'll add the bowl, get that all nice and coated. Now we're going to cover this with some cling film and we're going to let it rise for about an hour. Okay, so it's been about an hour. My dough's about doubled in size. Just going to degas it all. Then we're going to give it a few stretch and folds. So you're just going to pull it out until it meets resistance and fold it back down on itself. And you're going to get it back into a bowl. I may have put a little bit too much oil in the bowl, but that's just okay. Okay, once you've given it a few stretch and folds and you brought it back into a bowl. Now I did put a little bit too much oil in this bowl here, so I just wiped it back out again. So we're going to put it back in the bowl. We're going to cover it back up, and we're going to let it rise for about another hour. It's been about another hour since we last seen the dough, and she's risen up again with a couple of big bubbles in there. I've got some little bit of extra flour here just on the side, so I'll go ahead and give it a bit of a dusting, a bit on the dough, and then we'll plop it out. So we'll go ahead and degas this properly again, and then we'll divide it into 6 equal bowls. Once you've got them all divided into 6 equal bowls, mine come out to 173 grams to be exact, but yours may differ. Just weigh the whole thing divided by 6. There you go. So once you've got them all divided out, you just want to get them into nice taut little bowls. Just bunch it all up on the bottom there, and then while you're pushing down quite hard, just roll it between your thumb and your fingers, and you'll get a nice tight little ball. Alright, you'll just go ahead, put them on the side. Once we get them all put out, we'll cover them with a damp tea towel for about 15 minutes, and then we'll come back. Okay, after you let your dough rest a little bit, got a little bit of flour on the work surface, a little bit on top of the bowl, and we're just going to degas these once again and flatten them out into a nice little disc shape, you could say, or just, just aggressively degas and stretch it out a little bit. You don't want any air pockets in these buns. You want a nice tight crumb, so any air pockets you see, make sure you push them out. Okay, it's looking good. Now, we're just going to grab it, roll it back about 1/2 centimetre, and just tightly roll it back onto itself. Just create a nice little tight little log here. If you see any little air bubbles coming as you go, just make sure you pop them. Once you've got it rolled out there, just with your fingers, you want to just gently roll it out. We'll roll it out again, making sure to seal the edges, and the seam should be on the bottom. Make sure that's nice and sealed. Alright, once you got it looking like that, I've got my little baguette holder thingy here. Just want to plop it in. You can see I've already got one in there. That was a little bit too big. So we'll just get these in there, seam side down, and we'll go ahead and fix out the rest. This dough recipe I'm using is a Brian Langstrom's recipe. So if you want a full in-depth on how he actually does it, go over onto his channel and check it out, because he does have a way on his baguette video on how to make a baguette without this little piece of equipment here. So if you jump on over his channel and check that out, he'll have a much more in-depth tutorial on how to get this bread made. Once you got them all rolled out, stuck in your pan like that, go ahead, cover them with your damn tea towel again, and set these aside, and let them rest for about another 45 minutes. So, after your baguette's proofed up a little bit, we're going to score them. Now, if you had a lame, pretty sure it's called, it's like a razor blade, that would be ideal. But I don't have one of those. I do have a serrated knife, so I'm going to use that. So we're just going to go ahead and give them a little bit of a cut. I've never cooked baguette before, and I've never actually scored any bread that I've made, so hopefully it's not too deep, but should be alright. So my oven's already preheated to 200 degrees, and I've got a pan in the bottom there that's been preheating in there with it. I've boiled my kettle, and I'm going to give these a quick spray with water, and then as soon as I put these in the oven, I'm going to tip the boiling hot water in the pan underneath of these to create more steam, so we'll get more of a spring in the oven from this bread. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in, and then they should bake for about 30 minutes, and then we'll come right back. After your baguettes have finished baking, and they look all nice, as soon as you take them out the oven, you want to hit them with a little bit of melted butter on top. Now I took mine a little bit further than what I would have liked, so it's even more reason to put a little bit of butter over the top so they don't get too hard on top. So after you've finished coating them with butter, you're just going to let them cool down completely. As you can see, I've just gone ahead and julienned up about the same amount of daikon and carrots, and now we'll get the pickling liquid together. For the pickling liquid, very simple. We're going to go in with equal parts rice wine vinegar and water. That's about 150 mils each for the amount that I'm doing. And then you're going to go in with about a tablespoon of salt. And I like mine a little bit on the sweeter side, so I'm going in with 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. So we're just going to take that to the stove, bring it up to a gentle simmer until it's all dissolved, and then we'll come back. As you can see, salt and the sugar is all dissolved into the liquid. Now, you probably should use a bigger jar as well, but I managed to cram all of the daikon and the carrot into this jar. It will work just fine. So now we're just going to, simple enough, just pour the pickling liquid straight over the top. Let's give it a little push down, fill it right up so it's all covered. Now we're just going to stick the lid on and watch it all overflow because I overfilled it. Well, that'll be just fine. So now I'm just going to stick the lid on. Pickle's ready. It's come time to make the coriander mayo. So as you can see, I've just picked a whole bunch of the leaves off. Now all the stems from them are at the bottom of this pile here. You want to keep a hold of them. And we're just going to put this aside, and that's going to go on fresh at the end. So with the rest of the stems and the leaves, we're going to blanch these in some boiling water for about 30 seconds. And then we'll transfer into an ice bath to stop the cooking process. And that should help retain this bright green colour. As you can see, I've got my coriander in a bowl here. Now usually I'll put this in a boiling pot of water, but I'm just going to try pour the boiling water straight over this, leaving it for 30 seconds, then transferring into my ice water. My kettle just finished boiling. I'm going to completely cover this in the water. So we'll leave this for about 30 seconds, and then we'll transfer it over. Now I say about 30 seconds, but you'll see the colour get a little bit brighter. Then once that happens, you'll be ready to transfer over. That's looking good. Pick it up, straight into the water. Once you got it all transferred over, we'll just let that cool for a few minutes, and then we'll get on with the next step. Okay, after it's cooled off, doesn't take long obviously, it's in ice water. You just want to go ahead and take it all out, and we're going to put it on some paper towels. I'm going to get it all dry. Once you've all transferred the paper towel, just want to go ahead and put another one over the top, and you want to sop up as much water as you can out of these. Now, as you can see, I've dried it off nice and thoroughly, and I've just gone ahead and give it a super rough chop, just to help out my little food processor here. So we'll dump all of the coriander in. So the amount of oil I'm going to use this is the jar I'm going to be making the mayonnaise in. And I know from experience that this is about the mark, which I just looked at it then, it's about 250 mils. So we're just going to add that straight to the processor here. And as always, I'm using peanut oil, but any neutral oil would work. I would strongly advise against using olive oil when you're making mayonnaise because it makes it super bitter. So, once you get it all in there, I'm going to go ahead and plop the top on, and we're going to blitz this up until it's all blitzed up. Just going to go ahead and scrape all the sides down, because the finer this is, the easier the next step will be. So we'll get all those chunkers off the side, lid back on, and blitz again. Once it's all blitzed up, we'll go ahead and get set up for the next step. Due to a few technical difficulties, I actually missed the making of the mayonnaise. But it's super simple to make, and I've covered it on this channel many times. So in the container, you crack in one whole egg, put in some Dijon mustard, obviously Dijon mustard because we're making banh mi, pinch of salt, and I tipped in all of the coriander oil that I just made. Now I've tasted it for seasoning, and it needs a little bit of acidity, so I've just gone ahead and juiced a half of a lime, and we'll pour all that in, and we'll bang it back on, and we'll get this all blended in. I went ahead and mixed in the juice of half that lime, and it also thinned it out just a little bit because it was quite thick, which is perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and get this bottled up and get it in the fridge. Now I'm going to make a little sauce to go along with it. So I'm going to combine some lime juice, and I got some fish sauce. It should be nice and funky. So then we got a couple of teaspoons. Now I'm just using white sugar, but you could also use brown sugar. Should be good. About that much salt. You probably should be using some sort of sambal sauce, chili sauce, but I was at a farmer's market during the summer and I found this pineapple chili sauce, and I think it's going to go absolutely perfect in here. I'm not ever going to try and pronounce the name of that, but we're going to put about a teaspoon of this stuff up because it is quite potent. So we'll put a nice little teaspoon in there, then we'll get our little mixer in there, and we'll get all this stuff nice and dissolved. And then we'll taste it for seasoning and go from there. So once I've got it all mixed up in a bowl and I'll dissolve salt and the sugar, I'm just going to transfer it into this jar, close it up, because fish sauce is a funny one. I'm not a big fan of the smell, but I absolutely love the taste. So a sealed jar it is. So now it's time to assemble. But before I do, I don't want to drag it too hard because that is some damn crunchy, puffy crackle. Now comes the assembly time, which is a good thing because after this comes the eating time, the best part. So, first down is the coriander mayo. I'm going to go top and bottom with that one. A couple of big slabs of meat. Now we'll go in with some pickle. And then some cucumber. I've just cut up into some battens. Then I've just also thinly chopped up some chilies there. I've got red, green and yellow. So we'll scatter a couple of those in there. Then I'm going to add some of the sauce. Kind of drizzle it in there. And then we'll just, a little bit of mint, just a touch. And we'll finish it off with some fresh coriander. Okay, now you shove it in your face. Also, I would advise you to get the 2 kilo of pork belly. You won't need it all for the sandwiches, but it's so damn tasty. Oh, I was snacking on some before. You could warm the pork belly back up, but pretty sure that the banh mi is a cold meat sandwich anyway, and it's still crispy, so I didn't worry about it. This is an amazing sandwich. I actually had one at a restaurant about a week ago, and I thought I had to recreate my own. The crispy pork belly, nice puffy crust on it, absolutely amazing. Nice hum of chili throughout, fresh coriander, and the coriander mayo. It's hitting all them good buttons. Definitely going to be making this again. Also, the bread in this thing is really, really good. Has a perfect chew to it.